This episode contains discussions of death and grief. Listen at your own discretion. It is Sunday, the 15th of September, 2024. My name is Pigeon Rose, and this is my song of the day. Today we're talking about another band who I grew up listening to. It's weird that a lot of my autumn songs are bands that I heard when I was younger. I don't know, maybe it's the inherent nostalgia in the season. Also, I realize that I'm not doing Autumn Song by Manic Street Preachers, but I'll have you know I've had it stuck in my head all week. Today we're talking about Green Day. My sister was a big Green Day fan, and I listened to a few of the albums she had, particularly American Idiot. But I also went back and listened to Nimrod and Dookie a fair bit. I really loved the song Misery as a kid, which, you know, people ask me what's my favorite Green Day song. The answer is Homecoming. But I often mention Misery as one of my favorites, and people are like, what the fuck song is Misery? It's not a known song at all. But anyway, the song we're talking about today is also from American Idiot, and it is Wake Me Up When September Ends. Now, people make a lot of jokes about this song at the end of September, and it tends to spike in streaming plays at the end of September because it's about September ending. But it is a more serious song than that meme implies. It's about the death of Billie Joe Armstrong's father and kind of his life since then. And we'll talk about that more when we actually listen to it, but I just want to preface it with that so you have that in your head when you're listening. There have been other reinterpretations of it since, but that is the original intent of it. It was actually going to be included on a B-sides album called Shenanigans beforehand, but he felt he wasn't emotionally ready to record it yet, which is why it ended up in American Idiot, because it's the only song in American Idiot that isn't part of the narrative. American Idiot tells a story from start to finish. That's why it's a musical now. And this song is the only song in the album that doesn't fit into that story, because it's a leftover from a previous thing, basically. But anyway, we're going to listen to the song now and then come back in a few minutes and talk about it. This isn't a song I listen to very often. Even when I'm re-listening to Green Day, I'm more of a Jesus of Suburbia, Homecoming, Misery, like I said, kind of person, you know. And I don't listen to this song a lot, along with other known ones like American Idiot, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, because they're just so ingrained in the cultural consciousness that I feel like I don't need to listen to them because I just know them so well. They were everywhere back 20 years ago. Yes, this album's 20 years old this year, by the way. So I don't listen to it very often. And listening to it again now hit me. I had it on quite high volume by accident because I have to edit my podcast at a very high volume because for some reason it plays back really quiet when I'm editing it. And it was just blasting through my speakers. The big drums came in. Man, this is such a good fucking song. Ugh. Anyway, let's talk about it, shall we? So like I mentioned, this song is about Billie Joe Armstrong's dad's death. Billie Joe Armstrong is the singer, if you're unaware. And his dad died in 1982 on September 1st when Billie was 10. And supposedly, he went to bed after his father's funeral and his mother knocked on his door and he said, "Wake me up when September ends." And that's where the title comes from because, of course, his father died on September 1st. So, the rest of the month would have been just full-on grieving. So, the month of September becomes about that. And I do find it interesting. I mentioned there's other interpretations of the song. Some people have read it as being about 9/11 because of course they have, which I can understand. 9/11 was only 3 years prior at that point, and it's a song about grieving in September, so it makes sense that people would have that interpretation. People also came to associate it with Hurricane Katrina because Hurricane Katrina struck September 2005, so a year after this album came out, and there was a video online famously of recordings of the television coverage of the disaster with this song playing in the background. So a lot of people came to associate it with Hurricane Katrina, and then Green Day performed at a Hurricane Katrina benefit concert and did this song, of course. They also released a live recording of the song with the proceeds going to the victims. They saw that association that people had formed with it and ran with it. They also, I'm reading here now, did it for a COVID-19 relief charity live stream, which makes sense to me. Anyway, I'm also reading here, about how there's all the memes about this song and how it can be considered insensitive considering what the song is actually about. But apparently Armstrong in 2016 said in an interview that he would create a new song titled "Shut the Fuck Up When October Comes." It's very funny. Another thing that people note with this song is the music video, which was directed by Samuel Bayer, very famous music video director. He directed the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit, if you can picture that. It's a very famous video. And it's like a mini movie about a young couple, and the boy is like, I'll never leave you. And then he signs up to be with the Marines, and she's like, that constitutes leaving me. And they have like a big argument. He's like, no, it means I could die. I put my life on the line for your love. And she's like, no, you're gonna fucking die. And then it like cuts between her waiting at home and mourning in a field with scenes of his Marine troop getting attacked. It's a depressing ass video. And the couple in it are played by Jamie Bell and Evan Rachel Wood, who are much more famous now. But I remember at the time, this video would be on TV occasionally, and I would always go to the next channel because there's long parts of it that are talking and not the song. But then when I watched Across the Universe, which is the Beatles jukebox musical film, Evan Rachel Wood plays Lucy, as in Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And I was like, oh shit, it's the girl from the Wake Me Up When September Ends video. So, it's funny. Anyway, so summer has come and passed. The innocent can never last. Wake me up when September ends. Like my father's come to pass. 7 years has gone so fast. Wake me up when September ends. Pretty self-explanatory here, Summer is over. Innocent lives have been lost. Like my father's come to pass. 7 years has gone so fast. So why 7 years? Well, 7 years after his father's death is when Billy Joe Armstrong and Mike Dirnt formed a band called Sweet Children, which is what eventually led to Green Day. So that's what's talking about there. Then here comes the rain again, falling from the stars, drenched in my pain again, becoming who we are. As my memory rests, but never forgets what I lost. Wake me up when September ends. So here comes the rain again. I mean, it's autumn. There could be rain, but also it makes me think of crying. He's shedding tears over this memory. Drenched in my pain again. I mean, pretty self-explanatory, pretty emo, but just drenched in tears and remembering this loss. Becoming who we are as my memory rests, but never forgets what I lost. Like kind of coming to terms with this loss, but never forgetting it. His memory rests, but never forgets what he lost. It's still there. It's just not at the forefront, let's say. But then still wake me up when September ends. And then the second verse is kind of a variant of the first one. The first few lines are the same, but then it goes to ring out the bells again, like we did when spring began, wake me up when September ends. Ringing of bells immediately makes me think of a church. Church bells ringing signify various things, and they can signify a funeral. But also, of course, it makes me think of school bells. Ring out the bells again, like we did when spring began, wake me up when September ends. He's talking about going back to school, which, has got to be a tough. His father just died, and then he has to go back to school. That's got to be a tough memory. And then we get the chorus again, and then there's a guitar solo, and then the final verse. Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never last. Wake me up when September ends. Like my father's come to pass. 20 years has gone so fast. Wake me up when September ends. Wake me up when September ends. Wake me up when September ends. So, another variant on the original verse. It changes to 20 years this time because not when the song was released, but when the song was written, it had been 20 years since his father's death, which is wild to think that it's been 20 years since the song came out now. So it's been 40 years now. Well, 42 because it was 82. But it's just that passage of time, He's talking about summer's gone, the innocent lives have been lost. It's been 20 years since my dad died. What a harsh realization for him. And then just repeating, wake me up when September ends. Oh, hits hard. Especially, like I said earlier, the drums that come in after the first chorus. Oh man, really makes it all hit. Yeah, I mean, I love this song. It's so sad, but you can really feel Billy's emotions about his father here, and all the different versions, the different interpretations of the song, the music video, all add to kind of the different feels, but they all kind of unite with being about grief and time passing, and wanting to be alone. It's a sad topic, and he captures it really well here. I know I'm ending the autumn week on a bit of a downer, but that seems fitting for autumn, considering. But yeah, that's the end of the autumn week. Next week is not specifically themed, but there are several dates I specifically have songs picked out for, so that's fun. Look forward to that. But yeah, until then, thank you so much for listening. Please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think. Tell other people about this show. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Break it down.